Beneath every step we take, beneath the cities, oceans, and mountains, lies a silence so vast that it almost hums. For thousands of years, people have wondered what sleeps within that silence, whether it is nothing but stone and pressure, or something alive, ancient, and aware. From the first myths carved into temple walls to the strange accounts of explorers and scientists, humanity has always felt that the earth hides more than it reveals. Every tremor, every echo beneath the ground seems to carry a message, a whisper from below, calling those who dare to listen. Ancient civilizations spoke of the earth not as dead matter, but as a breathing being filled with chambers of light and rivers of fire. In Egypt, priests described the Duat, a luminous realm beneath the desert sands. In Mesopotamia, the gods of the underworld were said to dwell in shining halls beneath rivers and mountains. Across the oceans, the Hopi people told of the ant people who lived underground and once saved humanity from a great fire. Even in the icy north, Norse skalds sang of worlds beneath the roots of Yggdrasil, the great world tree. Though divided by oceans and time, every culture seemed to remember the same thing, that the world beneath our feet was far from empty. As science advanced and explorers mapped the globe, the old myths should have faded, but they did not. Instead, they changed shape. Reports of strange lights over the poles, of compass needles spinning in confusion, of tunnels carved deep beneath mountains, all kept the legend alive. Some believed the earth was hollow, its core glowing with an inner sun. Others claimed that ancient beings still dwelled below, watching humanity from afar, waiting for the right moment to return. Whether dismissed as fantasy or studied as mystery, the idea of a world within a world refused to die. Perhaps it endures because it speaks to something deeper within us. The sense that what we see is only a fraction of what exists. The hollow earth is not just a theory, it is a reflection of humanity's desire to look beyond the surface, to reach for what lies hidden. It asks the same question that has haunted every seeker, every dreamer. What if the true frontier is not above the sky, but below our feet? To follow this mystery is to embark on a journey across time and belief, through ancient texts, forbidden expeditions, and modern whispers of science and secrecy. It is to trace the thread that connects myth to geology, legend to discovery. Somewhere beneath the surface of history, a truth waits, layered beneath centuries of disbelief. Whether real or metaphorical, the hollow earth represents the unseen world that mirrors our own, a place of light hidden within darkness, of life concealed within silence. If you enjoy exploring mysteries like this one, ancient secrets, forgotten civilizations, and the unseen depths of our world, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a comment sharing your thoughts. Your support keeps these journeys alive and helps uncover more stories that connect the known with the unknown. Long before telescopes reached the stars or compasses drew circles around the world, ancient peoples turned their gaze inward, sensing that the heart of the earth might conceal its own heavens. In Mesopotamia, priests pressed reeds into clay and recorded visions of beings who emerged from beneath the rivers to teach humanity the arts of civilization. Among them was Oannes, half man and half fish, rising from the watery depths each morning to instruct and disappearing again at dusk into the abyss. To those who heard his words, he was no myth but a messenger from a hidden domain, one that pulsed beneath the foundations of the world. In the sun-drenched lands of Egypt, scribes etched tales of the Duat, a mysterious underworld threaded by rivers of fire and guarded by serpents of light. It was described not as a place of torment, but of passage and renewal, where souls traveled beneath the earth's surface to be weighed, transformed, and reborn. Pharaohs carried maps of these subterranean corridors on their tomb walls, believing that to know the path through the Duat was to unlock eternal life. The precision with which they described the gate's guardians and glowing caverns led later scholars to wonder whether the Duat symbolized something far more tangible than an afterlife, perhaps a veiled memory of journeys once taken through hidden chambers of the earth itself. Across the vast plains of India, the Vedas spoke of Patala, a world beneath the 7 layers of the earth, rich with precious metals and radiant light. The Nagas, serpent-like beings of immense wisdom, were said to rule those subterranean realms. Ancient Sanskrit texts describe their cities adorned with jewels and their skies illuminated by inner suns. The same writings hinted that the entrance to Patala lay somewhere in the Himalayas, hidden behind sacred mountains and guarded by monks who understood that to descend was to risk transformation. In Greece, philosophers like Pythagoras and Plato whispered of worlds below the crust, invisible yet essential to the harmony of creation. Plato's dialogues hinted that beneath the earth stretched vast hollows filled with rivers of fire and water, where souls journeyed before being reborn. His words, dismissed by some as allegory, have since been reinterpreted as echoes of an ancient cosmology that saw the earth not as a dead shell, but as a living organism with chambers and currents, much like the body of a god. Among the ancient Chinese, the emperor's alchemists mapped the earth as a breathing entity, threaded with veins of energy known as dragon lines. These currents were said to connect mountain peaks with underground palaces inhabited by immortals. Their meditations and rituals aimed to align human life with the hidden pulse of the world beneath. Some texts even mentioned luminous realms below the surface where sages lived in harmony, untouched by time, waiting for the outer world to rediscover balance. Far across the Pacific, the Hopi people told of the ant people who had saved their ancestors during a time of great fire. When the world above was consumed by destruction, the Hopi were led beneath the ground to safety, where the ant people taught them to live in darkness and survive until the surface healed. Those stories, carried through generations, describe domed chambers and tunnels that stretched for miles, glowing with soft light. To the Hopi, this was not a parable, but an account of something that truly happened, a shared memory passed through the ages. When one listens to these myths together, a pattern begins to emerge, not a random scattering of dreams, but a blueprint repeated across continents and ages. Every civilization seemed to possess knowledge of a hidden realm beneath the world, a place both sacred and forbidden. Each told of entrances concealed in mountains, deserts, or polar ice, and of beings who guarded these thresholds. These were not stories of hell or punishment, but of refuge, wisdom, and rebirth, a cosmic cycle mirrored in the soil itself. As centuries passed, empires rose and fell, yet the pattern endured. Scholars uncovered tablets, scrolls, and carvings describing gates to the underworld in nearly identical forms. From the stepped ziggurats of Babylon to the temples of Angkor, sacred architecture appeared to imitate an ancient plan. Stairways leading downward, spirals that symbolized descent, and chambers aligned with stars invisible to the surface eye. Perhaps those builders were not merely imagining what lay below, but remembering what their ancestors had once seen. The more one studies these fragments, the more they resemble pieces of a forgotten map. The earth, it seems, was once understood as a layered realm, with civilizations upon civilizations stacked like the rings of an unseen cosmos. The myths may differ in name and form, but the message remains the same. Humanity has never been alone on the surface. Beneath us may lie the remnants of an older order, one that guided, watched, and withdrew when the surface world forgot how to listen. Shadows of that forgotten blueprint echo in the great legends that span the globe, each describing realms hidden below the visible earth. Among the Greeks, Hades ruled over a kingdom not of flames, but of quiet valleys and silver rivers where souls rested. The entrance to his domain was said to lie beyond the edge of daylight, hidden in deep caves or at the mouths of rivers that vanished underground. Heroes who dared to descend returned changed, carrying fragments of truth that words could scarcely contain. Their journeys were not simply tales of death, but of contact with something deeper, a world that mirrored and informed the one above. In the East, Tibetan monks preserved the legend of Agartha, a vast subterranean land illuminated by an inner light. They spoke of vast halls of crystal, cities that shimmered like dawn, and beings who had transcended the surface chaos. These tales were whispered in monasteries perched above clouds, yet always pointed below, toward entrances guarded by eternal snow. To the monks, the inner realms were not superstition, but sacred geography, woven into their understanding of existence. In South America, the Incas spoke of Urcos, a hidden city beneath the Andes, said to shine with its own sun. Local shamans claimed that tunnels connected the sacred temples of Cusco with deeper chambers where ancient keepers preserved relics from before the flood. Even today, explorers claim to find sealed passages carved with precision beyond known tools, as though someone long ago sealed the path to something not meant to be rediscovered. Among the native tribes of North America, stories tell of the Ant People and the Snake Brothers, who once guided humanity through eras of destruction. These helpers emerged from beneath the ground, their eyes reflecting the glow of inner light, teaching humans to farm, to heal, and to build. When their work was done, they retreated back into the depths, promising to return when the surface world again faced great change. For those who listened, the message was clear. The underworld was not a realm of punishment, but of protection. In the cold reaches of the north, Norse mythology spoke of Svartalfheim, the world of dark elves, craftsmen of immense skill who forged weapons and wonders beneath the mountains. These beings were not evil, but powerful, living in a place where sunlight never reached. Their world glowed with molten rivers and crystal caverns, echoing descriptions from distant lands that knew nothing of the Norse. Such consistency across separated cultures hints at an ancient shared memory. One humanity did not invent, but inherit. Far to the east, Buddhist texts mention Shambhala, a luminous city of peace concealed within the earth, its gates sealed to the unworthy. Those who reached it would find beings of perfect wisdom, guardians of truth who influenced the surface world subtly, guiding its destiny from the shadows. To seekers, Shambhala was both a physical and spiritual goal, a point where material and divine worlds touched. In Polynesian legends, the earth was said to rest upon a great turtle that carried countless hidden chambers within its body. The Maori spoke of Tautara, the hollow beneath the land, where ancestors waited. The imagery may differ, yet the underlying theme remains. Beneath our feet exists a living network, a second world mirroring the first, older and wiser than those who walk the surface. From the icy myths of Siberia to the desert dreams of the Aboriginals, every tradition contains whispers of openings to other realms. Sometimes they appear as caves, sometimes as sacred lakes or volcanic craters. Often they are forbidden places where compasses fail, where animals refuse to go, where time itself feels different. Those who wander too close to such sites report sensations of pressure, vibration, or an eerie silence, as though the ground itself listens. Such consistency across continents cannot be easily dismissed as coincidence. Myths travel, but not with such precision. The idea that every culture imagined nearly identical subterranean realms suggests something deeper, a collective memory, a trace of contact, or perhaps a truth that the earth itself once revealed to those who could perceive it. As the old stories remind, the world beneath the world is not only a place, but a mirror. It reflects the inner nature of humanity, the pull between light and shadow, knowledge and ignorance. Whether these realms exist in stone and soil or in the fabric of spirit, their persistence in our myths tells us something enduring. Humanity has always sensed that what lies below is not dead matter, but the pulse of another reality waiting to be rediscovered. Amid the tangled roots of these global myths, one name stands out as both a destination and a promise: Agartha. To mystics, explorers, and dreamers alike, it represents the heart of the inner world, a vast kingdom illuminated by a sun that never sets. Ancient texts speak of its golden cities, its rivers of pure light, and its rulers who guard knowledge from the dawn of time. In those legends, Agartha is not merely a city, but the living soul of the planet itself. Deep within Tibetan and Indian traditions, Agartha is described as the seat of an ancient order, a hidden empire governed by beings of immense wisdom known as the masters of the inner world. They are said to dwell in harmony with natural forces, their civilization untouched by decay or conflict. Their light radiates upward through the crust, inspiring prophets and inventors alike, guiding humanity through unseen channels. For seekers across centuries, the quest for Agartha has been both a spiritual pilgrimage and a literal journey into the Earth's mystery. Early travelers in the Himalayas spoke of monks who hinted at secret tunnels leading to realms below. Some described doorways hidden in ice caverns. Others mentioned valleys where compasses spun wildly, as if magnetized by something beneath. Local legends told of luminous figures appearing in mountain passes, watching silently before vanishing into stone. To those who encountered such tales, Agartha felt less like fantasy and more like a secret carefully guarded by nature itself. In the writings of the French mystic Saint-Yves d'Alvedre during the 19th century, Agartha took on a grander form, a subterranean utopia governed by a council of enlightened beings who preserved the wisdom of lost civilizations. He claimed that the rulers of Agartha maintained contact with select initiates on the surface, guiding humanity through subtle influence. His descriptions of radiant halls, advanced technologies, and a central inner sun captured the imagination of occult societies across Europe, sparking an obsession that would shape decades of exploration and speculation. Those who studied these accounts noticed how often the entrances to Agartha aligned with the world's highest and coldest places: the poles, the Himalayas, the Andes, regions where the Earth's breath seems closest to the surface. Some maps drawn in secret circles placed Agartha directly beneath the Tibetan plateau, its inner light fueling the sacred fires of Shambhala. Others suggested a network of tunnels stretching from Mongolia to Antarctica, forming a vast labyrinth that connected all sacred sites of the ancient world. Legends describe Agartha as a land bathed in soft golden light, where time flows differently and decay holds no dominion. Its inhabitants, said to be the descendants of a pre-flood civilization, possess mastery over energies unknown to modern science. The power to control gravity, to heal, and to communicate through pure thought. They live in harmony with a central energy source, a radiant sun at the planet's core that nourishes all life below. This inner radiance, both physical and spiritual, is said to be the true source of all light that reaches the surface, a reflection of the wisdom within. Accounts from mystics claim that Agartha is connected to the surface world through ancient gates hidden in deserts, jungles, and icy plains. Some are sealed by natural disasters, others by guardians who ensure that only the pure of heart may enter. Pilgrims who attempted the descent often spoke of hearing deep vibrations in the earth, like the sound of a distant choir or the hum of a giant heart. Those who returned described feelings of profound peace, as though the world itself had whispered a forgotten truth into their souls. Among the scattered reports, certain details repeat too precisely to ignore. Cities of translucent crystal, tunnels lit by self-luminous stones, a central temple built around a sun that never rises or sets. These visions appear across continents, across languages, and across time. They form a mosaic that feels less like invention and more like memory. Perhaps Agartha is not a place to be found with maps and machines, but a realm accessible through resonance, alignment, or awakening. Even so, explorers continued to search the physical world for its gates. Expeditions vanished in the Himalayas, compasses failed in polar regions, and strange lights were reported over remote mountain ranges. Each new discovery only deepened the enigma. For every skeptic who dismissed the stories as fantasy, another adventurer returned, haunted, convinced they had glimpsed something beyond the reach of ordinary eyes. Through centuries of whispers and wanderings, Agartha endures as a symbol of what lies beneath the known. It speaks to a human longing older than civilization itself. The belief that enlightenment does not descend from above, but rises from within, from the hidden depths of both earth and spirit. Whether real or imagined, the hidden kingdom continues to draw the curious downward toward the unseen heart of the world. High among the snow-veiled summits of the Himalayas, ancient monks whisper of a place untouched by decay, untouched by time. A radiant kingdom known as Shambhala. Unlike Agartha, whose name is spoken in the shadows of mystery and secrecy, Shambhala is sung in hymns of light and compassion, a hidden city where wisdom and power flow in harmony. Ancient Buddhist scriptures describe it as the heart of the earth, a realm of eternal spring where the masters of the inner world dwell in perfect unity, preserving a balance that sustains both surface and soul. Far older than legend suggests, the story of Shambhala originates in the Kalachakra Tantra, a sacred Tibetan text that speaks of a circular kingdom hidden beyond the mountains, encircled by rings of ice and rock. It is said that no map can reveal its location, for Shambhala exists at the intersection of the physical and the divine. Those who seek it with greed or ambition find only emptiness, while those who approach with purity of heart may be guided by unseen forces through passes shrouded in cloud and silence. To enter Shambhala is to cross the threshold between the world of man and the mind of the cosmos. Accounts from traveling monks and lamas describe Shambhala as a city of radiant palaces constructed from materials unknown to the surface world. Streets glow faintly with the energy of the inner sun, and air shimmers with a gentle warmth that sustains eternal life. Its people, luminous and serene, are said to possess an understanding of both matter and spirit, blending science and spirituality in ways long forgotten by humankind. Their ruler, the king of the world, is depicted not as a monarch, but as a guardian, a being who holds the secret link between humanity and the inner realms. Echoes of Shambhala reached the West through explorers and mystics who wandered into Tibet during the 19th and 20th centuries. Some returned with vague tales of a radiant valley glimpsed through mists, others with cryptic maps or symbols that seemed to pulse with meaning. The Russian mystic Nicholas Roerich claimed to have seen signs of Shambhala during his expedition across Central Asia, speaking of blue spheres of fire that guided his caravan through the mountains. His journals described an invisible presence that seemed to watch over him, a feeling of intelligence emanating from the landscape itself. Many scholars dismissed these stories as poetic exaggerations, yet the resonance of Shambhala spread far beyond spiritual circles. Occult movements in Europe adopted the legend as a cornerstone of hidden wisdom, interpreting it as both a physical realm and a higher state of consciousness. They believed that those who aligned their inner vibration with the frequency of Shambhala could receive visions or messages from its inhabitants. Such teachings blurred the boundary between myth and meditation, suggesting that the hidden kingdom might not be buried in rock, but folded within the unseen layers of reality. Certain interpretations describe Shambhala as the spiritual counterpart of Agartha, both parts of a vast inner civilization. Agartha, representing the scientific and material mastery of the inner world, Shambhala, embodying its divine and moral essence. Together they form a dual current running beneath the crust of the earth, balancing progress with wisdom. This harmony, according to ancient prophecy, will one day be disrupted when humanity strays too far from the natural order, prompting Shambhala to emerge once more, not in conquest but in revelation. Prophecies recorded in Tibetan lore speak of a coming age when the world will fall into chaos, when greed and ignorance will shroud the earth like smoke. At that time, the king of Shambhala will lead his armies of light through hidden gates, restoring harmony to the surface world. To those who take this literally, it suggests an invasion from below. To others, it represents a spiritual awakening, the moment when inner wisdom rises to cleanse the outer world. Either way, the myth carries a promise that light, though buried, is never lost. Even modern explorers who reject the supernatural cannot easily dismiss the strange synchronicities surrounding Shambhala. Unexplained lights have been seen over the Himalayas, strange magnetic anomalies recorded near remote valleys, and ancient cave systems discovered beneath Tibetan monasteries carved with symbols resembling stars and wheels. Whether coincidence or clue, these phenomena keep the mystery alive, as though the land itself guards its secret. Every mention of Shambhala, from sacred texts to modern retellings, shares one unbroken thread: the idea that enlightenment does not dwell in the heavens but within the hidden heart of the world. To seek Shambhala is to seek the reflection of that light within oneself, to find in the depths of silence the eternal radiance that sustains both the planet and the soul. As centuries of legend blended with the curiosity of modern exploration, attention began to turn toward the edges of the world. Maps drawn in secret societies hinted that the entrances to the inner earth lay not in the tropics or mountains, but at the poles, concealed beneath perpetual ice and blinding storms. Adventurers and mystics alike became obsessed with this idea, that the Arctic and Antarctic were not barren wastelands, but thresholds into another world, vast openings where the crust curved inward to reveal realms of eternal light. When the age of polar exploration dawned in the 19th century, ships set out to conquer the unknown with equal parts courage and faith. Reports began to emerge of strange warm winds blowing from the north, of flocks of birds migrating toward regions supposedly lifeless and frozen. Sailors returning from Arctic voyages described glowing horizons, fogs that shimmered like dawn, and compass needles spinning wildly as though responding to invisible forces. These anomalies, dismissed by some as natural curiosities, fed the growing belief that the poles hid more than mere ice. One of the earliest and most intriguing theories came from the American thinker John Cleves Sims, Jr., who in the early 1800s proclaimed that the Earth was hollow and habitable within. He believed that vast openings at both poles led into a world bathed in perpetual daylight, sustained by an inner sun. Though his claims were ridiculed by scientific institutions, Simmis's lectures drew large crowds, and his followers petitioned Congress to fund an expedition to the poles. Their dream was simple yet audacious: to find the gates of the Hollow Earth and meet the civilizations within. Later expeditions recorded phenomena that seemed to echo Simmers's vision. Norwegian explorer Fridtjof Nansen noted warm currents and the presence of driftwood far north of the expected tree line. Others spoke of fogs glowing with unearthly light, or of hollow-sounding ice plains that seemed to conceal vast chambers below. Each new account added another layer to the myth, blending science with wonder. The poles, once symbols of desolation, began to take on the aura of sacred guardianship, as though the planet itself protected its deepest secret behind a fortress of ice. By the early 20th century, advances in aviation allowed explorers to peer farther into the Arctic skies. Pilots reported mirages of green valleys beyond the horizon, lands that shimmered like mirages, yet seemed strangely real. Some spoke of faint glows beneath the ice, as though sunlight rose from below rather than above. Even scientists intrigued by magnetism and auroras could not fully explain the strange behavior of compasses or the curious warmth of certain polar winds. Each unexplained phenomenon breathed new life into the legend of the polar portals. Governments and military powers quietly took interest in these remote regions. Expeditions were launched under the banners of science, yet many carried instruments designed for more than simple measurement. In both hemispheres, secrecy deepened, remote stations were built, flights were restricted, and maps were altered. Those who questioned these changes whispered that the great nations had discovered something extraordinary, entrances to a world that must remain hidden. Writers and occultists of the time, drawing inspiration from both myth and science, began weaving stories of hidden races beneath the poles. Some described the entrances as vast spirals of magnetic energy, others as physical caverns guarded by storms. A few claimed that ancient civilizations had long used these openings to travel between the surface and the inner world, sealing them only when humanity became too dangerous to trust. The concept of the polar portals soon transcended speculation, becoming a symbol of humanity's yearning to touch the unknown. Even as technology advanced, satellite imagery and modern science did little to diminish the allure of the idea. Certain unexplained anomalies, circular shadows, gaps in polar imaging, or restricted flight paths, continued to provoke questions. For those who believed, these were not coincidences but evidence of concealment, clues pointing toward gateways that governments dared not reveal. The ice, they said, was not simply nature's barrier, but a veil drawn across the threshold of a hidden civilization. What draws minds again and again to those frozen ends of the earth is not just curiosity, but the timeless human desire to find something greater beneath the known. The polar regions, vast and indifferent, remain symbols of both mystery and invitation. The silent watchers at the edge of the world, guarding what lies beneath the snow and the silence. As the 20th century unfolded, one name became inseparably linked with the legend of the inner earth, Admiral Richard Evelyn Byrd. A decorated explorer and aviator, Byrd embodied the modern spirit of adventure, combining discipline with wonder. His expeditions to both the Arctic and Antarctic captured global attention, but among the official reports and scientific triumphs, whispers persisted of something far stranger. A secret flight beyond the poles into a land no map had ever charted. According to accounts that surfaced years after his death, Byrd kept a private diary describing an extraordinary event during his 1947 Antarctic expedition. The diary allegedly told of a flight where his aircraft entered a vast opening at the South Pole and emerged into a temperate inner world filled with forests, rivers, and a sun that hung in the sky, though no external light source was visible. He wrote of meeting advanced beings who communicated telepathically, warning humanity of its destructive path and urging peace between nations. Whether authentic or fabricated, this document became the cornerstone of one of the greatest modern legends, the flight into the Hollow Earth. Eyewitness reports from those close to Byrd mentioned that his demeanor changed after that mission. He spoke less, wrote cryptically, and seemed haunted by something he could not fully share. Official records listed the expedition as a routine polar survey, yet fragments of declassified material hinted that portions of his logs were withheld from the public. Some claimed that Byrd had indeed flown beyond known coordinates, entering a forbidden zone. The radio transmission records, if they ever existed, vanished soon after. Those who studied the alleged diary found its tone too intimate, too sincere to dismiss entirely. It described landscapes of impossible beauty, green valleys framed by mountains that shone with light, mammoth-like creatures roaming beneath crystalline skies, and cities that gleamed as though built of living stone. The beings Byrd encountered identified themselves as the Ariani, custodians of the inner world who watched over the surface from afar. They spoke of nuclear dangers and environmental collapse, warning that Earth's balance was nearing a breaking point. Skeptics quickly labeled the diary a hoax, arguing that the physical impossibility of such a journey rendered it fantasy. Yet others countered that much of Byrd's material remained classified under military secrecy, and that certain coordinates from his later missions were still inaccessible. His 1956 flight over the North Pole was said to have encountered similar anomalies, magnetic disturbances, radio silence, and glimpses of landscapes inconsistent with known geography. The legend of Byrd's encounter spread quickly through esoteric circles. To some, he was a reluctant messenger entrusted with knowledge humanity was not yet ready to receive. To others, he became a symbol of how truth is often buried beneath layers of authority and disbelief. Secret societies and conspiracy theorists alike began linking his story with older myths of Agartha and Shambhala, claiming that Byrd had glimpsed the entrance to those very kingdoms beneath the ice. Government responses only deepened suspicion. Reports vanished, maps were altered, and key witnesses either denied involvement or disappeared from public record. The Antarctic Treaty of 1959, which restricted independent exploration of the continent, was cited by believers as evidence of an ongoing cover-up. To them, Byrd's discovery was not denied, it was buried. Long after his death, Byrd's legacy continues to ripple through time. His name appears in countless theories, novels, and documentaries, a bridge between science and the unknown. Whether his diary was real or allegory, the story it tells resonates with something deeply human, the unending quest to uncover what lies beyond the visible, to find meaning beneath the silence of ice and cloud. Through Byrd's supposed journey, the myth of the Hollow Earth stepped into the modern age, merging the old legends with the technologies of flight and exploration. Long before the fires of war consumed Europe, strange ideas were already taking root in the dark corners of ideology. Among the high ranks of the Third Reich, whispers spread of ancient races, hidden masters, and a world beneath the earth that held secrets of unimaginable power. These were not the inventions of fiction, but genuine beliefs held by key figures within the Nazi hierarchy. They saw in the legend of the Hollow Earth not just myth, but proof of a forgotten science that could restore humanity to what they imagined as its divine origin. The thirst for dominance was not limited to the surface. It extended into the unseen depths below. In secret lodges and occult societies that preceded the rise of Hitler's regime, such as the Thule Society and the Vril Society, members meditated on symbols drawn from Tibetan and Nordic lore. They spoke of an ancient energy, the Vril force, said to flow through the earth like blood through veins. Those who mastered it could control gravity, heal wounds, and harness limitless power. Some among them believed that this energy originated from the inner sun of the Hollow Earth, the same radiance that sustained the mythical kingdoms of Agartha and Shambhala. These ideas merged with distorted interpretations of Eastern mysticism, producing a strange fusion of pseudo-science and occult ambition that would soon influence political power at the highest level. Adolf Hitler himself was fascinated by the notion of hidden origins. His obsession with Aryan ancestry extended far beyond archaeology or genetics. It reached into the realm of mythology. He and his inner circle imagined the Aryan race as descendants of a lost civilization that once ruled both surface and subterranean worlds. Expeditions were launched under the banner of scientific research, yet their motives were steeped in esoteric pursuit. Scholars, SS officers, and explorers scoured remote corners of the earth, searching for evidence that their imagined forebears still existed beneath the surface, waiting to reawaken. In 1938, an official German expedition set out for Tibet, led by Ernst Schaefer and backed by the SS organization known as the Ahnenerbe, a research division dedicated to uncovering the supposed prehistory of the Aryan race. While publicly described as a zoological and ethnological mission, its deeper purpose was to locate the fabled entrances to Agartha and Shambhala. Monks reportedly received the explorers with a mix of hospitality and restraint, sharing fragments of local legend but withholding sacred knowledge. Some accounts claim that artifacts and manuscripts were quietly acquired and transported back to Berlin, hinting at a hidden agreement between the travelers and certain monastic orders. Meanwhile, within Germany itself, scientific experiments began to blur the line between mysticism and technology. Engineers explored theories of electromagnetic propulsion, anti-gravity craft, and hollow earth geophysics. A few radical thinkers within the Reich even proposed that the Earth's surface might curve inward, that humanity was living on the inner shell of a hollow sphere. They attempted to test this theory by measuring radio transmissions in reverse, believing they would bounce not off the atmosphere, but the opposite inner side of the planet. To modern eyes, these notions seem absurd, yet within the feverish atmosphere of the Third Reich, imagination often carried the weight of truth. Rumors grew that toward the end of the war, certain SS divisions undertook secret missions to the polar regions, following instructions derived from ancient maps and runic diagrams. Some claimed that German submarines slipped beneath Antarctic ice, seeking a hidden base where the last remnant of the Reich could endure. Reports surfaced after the war of U-boats discovered abandoned near the southern ice, their logs erased, their crews vanished. Such discoveries fed speculation that the Nazis had found, or at least believed they had found, a path into the Hollow Earth. Even after Germany's defeat, stories continued to circulate of a secret enclave beneath the Antarctic continent, where advanced technology and hidden masters guided the fate of the post-war world. Allied intelligence investigated these rumors with quiet concern, for they seemed to intertwine with Admiral Byrd's mysterious expedition and the sudden surge of military interest in the polar regions. The idea that remnants of the Reich might have fled below the ice to unite with ancient subterranean beings became one of the strangest and most persistent legends of the 20th century. For those who studied these stories with open minds, the Nazi obsession with the inner world represented more than madness. It revealed how myth, when twisted by ideology, could become a weapon, a force capable of turning imagination into justification. The Hollow Earth, once a symbol of enlightenment and refuge, was reimagined as a source of power and domination. Whether or not any truth lay behind their expeditions, the fact that men sought to claim the heart of the earth itself spoke volumes about the hunger that drives empires and the darkness that can lurk beneath human ambition. Beneath every story of subterranean realms, from Agartha to Shambhala, glows one central image, the inner sun. Not a burning ball of fire like the star above, but a radiant sphere suspended at the center of the planet, bathing the hidden world in perpetual dawn. Those who describe it speak of light without heat, brilliance without blindness, an energy that nourishes rather than scorches. To the mystics of old, this sun represented the soul of the earth, the secret heart that sustained both the inner and outer worlds. Ancient myths seem to echo this image across cultures. In Hindu cosmology, Surya, the sun god, is said to have a twin who shines within the earth, illuminating the hidden realms of Patala. Among the Maya, carvings depict a second sun beneath the serpent of creation, symbolizing rebirth through descent. Even early Christian mystics spoke of a divine light buried within matter, a spark of paradise that never fell from grace. Across continents, people envisioned light not only descending from the heavens but rising from the depths. Modern interpreters of the Hollow Earth theory transformed this symbol into a physical phenomenon. Some imagined the inner sun as a miniature star held in place by gravitational equilibrium, its gentle radiation maintaining a livable climate within the hollow sphere. Others described it as an electromagnetic core, pulsing with cosmic energy that fuels both planetary magnetism and life itself. To believers, this was no mere allegory, it was a scientific possibility suppressed by conventional geology. Scientists, of course, dismissed such ideas, arguing that the pressures and temperatures within Earth's core would obliterate any cavity, let alone sustain a sun. Yet even within official studies, certain anomalies invited speculation. Seismic waves sometimes revealed strange patterns, regions that seemed less dense than expected. Magnetic fields fluctuated in ways not fully understood. A few researchers working at the edge of accepted theory suggested that the planet might contain massive hollow chambers or plasma-filled pockets capable of emitting light. Though far from proof, such mysteries kept the flame of curiosity alive. Mystics and esoteric thinkers, on the other hand, viewed the inner sun not as matter but as consciousness, a radiant intelligence that breathes through every stone and ocean. They taught that those who journey inward through meditation or initiation could perceive this light directly, not through eyes, but through the spirit. To them, the legends of subterranean cities illuminated by an inner sun were metaphors for enlightenment, a light discovered only by descending into darkness, by venturing beneath the surface of the known. Accounts from supposed explorers who claimed to have entered the Hollow Earth described landscapes bathed in golden twilight. Plants glowed faintly, rivers shimmered with internal luminescence, and the sky itself appeared translucent, as though the light came from every direction at once. The air, they said, carried a strange vitality that extended life and heightened awareness. Whether these tales were visionary or literal, they carried a consistent imagery that speaks to the imagination. It is a world without shadow where illumination is constant and complete. In some traditions, the inner sun was said to beat like a heart, pulsing rhythmically with the cycles of the surface world. When humanity strayed too far from harmony, the light dimmed, sending tremors through mountains and seas. When balance was restored, the glow brightened, infusing the planet with renewal. This idea, half myth and half mystical ecology, portrayed the Earth not as an inert object, but as a living being whose pulse could be felt by those who listened. Throughout history, seekers have tried to replicate or harness the inner sun's energy. Alchemists spoke of the black sun, a hidden power within matter that, when awakened, could transform base metal into gold and ignorance into wisdom. Modern inventors chasing the dream of free energy often cited similar concepts, believing that the Earth's core might radiate an untapped force accessible through resonance. Whether these attempts succeeded or failed, they reveal a constant theme: humanity's desire to reclaim the lost light within itself and its world. Even as science maps the stars above, the myth of the inner sun continues to shine from below, a reminder that illumination does not always descend from the heavens. Sometimes it rises from within, from the secret heart that beats beneath our feet, unseen yet ever present, calling humanity to remember that darkness is only another form of light waiting to be understood. Across the long corridors of legend, whispers speak not only of hidden realms, but of those who inhabit them. Ancient civilizations that retreated beneath the surface long before recorded history. Their names vary with language and age: Agarthans, Lemurians, Reptilians, Shining Ones, Inner Earth Masters. Each tradition paints them as guardians of immense knowledge, beings who survived cataclysms that reshaped the surface and chose to continue their evolution in the safety of the world below. According to esoteric texts, the first of these civilizations were the descendants of Lemuria, the fabled continent said to have once stretched across the Pacific. When great geological upheavals destroyed their land, the survivors sought refuge underground, guided by beings of higher intelligence. They built vast halls and luminous cities beneath the crust, mastering energy fields and crystal technology that allowed them to sustain life in the depths. Some traditions claim they eventually lost interest in the affairs of the surface, withdrawing into their own harmony, yet they continue to watch the outer world through unseen means. Other legends describe the Agarthans as an advanced race that never suffered decline, a people of light who maintained a perfect balance between science and spirit. Their civilization, said to span the entire interior of the planet, operates through telepathic communication and collective will, rather than technology as humanity knows it. They exist in unity with the planet's inner sun, drawing vitality directly from its radiation. Their cities shimmer like auroras, and their architecture resembles crystal growth rather than construction, living structures attuned to both thought and energy. In contrast, stories from certain occult traditions warn of other subterranean beings, reptilian or amphibious forms that guard the deep caverns between the surface and the inner world. Some portray them as ancient defenders of the earth, custodians of balance who occasionally intervene when humanity threatens the planet's stability. Others cast them as rival powers, remnants of a prehistoric species that refused to yield dominion to humankind. These conflicting portrayals reveal more about human fear and fascination than about the creatures themselves, yet they reinforce the idea that the underground realms are populated by more than myth. Among the most persistent tales are those describing the Shining Ones, radiant beings who appear to select mystics and travelers, guiding them through visions or physical encounters. Reports of such figures stretch from the deserts of Egypt to the mountains of Peru, from ancient Celtic lore to modern contactee stories. Always they are described as tall, luminous, and serene, their presence accompanied by deep silence and warmth. Some believe they are emissaries from Agartha, bridging the gap between inner and outer worlds when human consciousness reaches a certain threshold. Accounts of explorers who claim to have entered these realms describe societies free from disease and conflict, where knowledge is shared rather than hoarded, and communication occurs through pure understanding. Time flows differently there, and aging slows as though the rhythm of life itself has changed. These descriptions often mirror humanity's own utopian dreams, suggesting that the civilizations below may serve as archetypes of what the surface world could become if it remembered its unity with nature and spirit. Certain occult philosophies propose that contact between surface and subterranean civilizations has occurred repeatedly throughout history. They point to sudden leaps in human knowledge, agriculture, metallurgy, astronomy, as possible gifts from inner mentors. Myths of gods descending from mountains or emerging from caves could, in this view, record genuine interactions between the two worlds. Perhaps humanity's greatest teachers were not celestial beings from the skies, but terrestrial ones from beneath the ground. Modern enthusiasts of the Hollow Earth theory interpret these stories as both literal and symbolic. To them, the inner civilizations represent an evolutionary potential that humanity has forgotten, a vision of harmony achieved through introspection rather than conquest. By studying the myth, they argue, one may glimpse not only hidden history, but also the blueprint for the future. For if a peaceful, enlightened civilization can exist beneath the earth, then perhaps it can also exist upon it. Through every era, the civilizations below have remained the most haunting and hopeful aspect of the Hollow Earth tradition. Whether viewed as ancient survivors, spiritual guardians, or archetypes of enlightenment, they remind humanity that knowledge and salvation may lie not in the stars above but in the depths beneath, in the unseen chambers of the planet and the equally mysterious caverns of the human soul. Beneath the soil and stone of our world lie vast networks of tunnels, chambers, and cities carved with precision that defies the limitations of the ages in which they were built. Some are known to historians, others remain silent beneath layers of earth, whispering their secrets only to those who listen deeply. Each of these subterranean structures bears an uncanny resemblance to the myths of inner realms, not just shelters or tombs, but entire worlds beneath the surface, echoing the memory of a forgotten connection between the surface and the deep. In the heart of Anatolia, under the rolling plains of Cappadocia, the ancient city of Derinkuyu extends downward like a spiral into darkness. Discovered by chance in the 20th century, it revealed a labyrinth of passages, ventilation shafts, and halls capable of housing tens of thousands of people. Its tunnels stretch miles beneath the surface, linking with other underground cities through narrow corridors as though forming the veins of an ancient organism. Archaeologists suggest it served as a refuge during invasions, yet the scale and sophistication of its design point to something greater, an architecture meant for long-term habitation, as if its builders anticipated remaining below for generations. Farther north, beneath the salt mines of Poland, lies the subterranean world of Wieliczka. What began as a simple excavation evolved over centuries into an underground cathedral of art and devotion. Chapel walls carved entirely from salt glow with ethereal light, sculptures shimmer in crystalline form, and long corridors lead into chambers where silence feels alive. Pilgrims who descend into these depths often describe a strange sensation of peace, as though the weight of the earth above carries a sacred stillness. Places like these blur the boundary between utility and mysticism, between the human impulse to dig and the ancient longing to return inward. Deep within the Andes, legends speak of tunnels that connect the lost temples of the Incas, extending for hundreds of miles beneath mountain and jungle alike. Explorers who have ventured into these passages tell of walls that glisten as if coated with gold, of corridors that seem to hum faintly, and of sudden draughts of warm air rising from deeper chambers. Native traditions hold that these tunnels lead to ancient sanctuaries where the last remnants of a pre-flood civilization still reside. Some even claim that the Inca priests who vanished during the Spanish conquest retreated into these depths, guided by beings from the inner realms who promise sanctuary beneath the earth. Across Europe, similar mysteries hide beneath ancient cities. Beneath Paris lies an ossuary known as the Catacombs, stretching for miles, an underground necropolis filled with bones arranged in geometric order. Yet deeper still, beyond the tourist paths, are sealed tunnels whose origins remain unknown, reaching toward areas never mapped. In Naples, Rome, and Edinburgh, endless corridors wind beneath the streets, some older than the cities above them. Each layer tells a story of humanity's urge to descend, to create life where sunlight cannot reach, as if repeating an ancient instinct inherited from ancestors who once called the depths home. Across the Middle East, rumors persist of tunnels linking the great ziggurats of Mesopotamia, some believed to lead toward hidden vaults beneath the Persian Gulf. Explorers who studied the ruins of Ur and Eridu found inscriptions describing the Abzu, a sacred abyss ruled by the god Enki who kept his palace beneath the waters. These depictions mirror descriptions of subterranean palaces found in other myths, suggesting that ancient builders may have sought to replicate a divine pattern below the earth. To them, descent was not exile but communion, a path toward the source of creation. Even in modern times, deep excavation reveals structures that seem to defy explanation. In Turkey, immense tunnels stretch between ancient sites, separated by dozens of miles, carved with precision beyond the tools known to their supposed builders. In South America, shafts descend into stone too hard for bronze or iron to cut. Many are sealed or flooded, their origins uncertain, their purpose lost. Yet the symmetry, the smoothness, and the strange acoustic properties of these spaces suggest more than coincidence. Perhaps echoes of a global tradition, a memory preserved in stone. Some researchers propose that these subterranean cities were not merely built for survival, but as deliberate gateways between worlds. In certain temples, shafts align with celestial bodies, channeling light deep underground at specific times of year, as though to remind the dwellers below of the surface sun they left behind. The ancient architects may have sought to unite heaven and earth through descent, believing that true illumination could only be found by passing through darkness. These designs reflect a wisdom that transcends time, a recognition that the world above and below are bound by the same sacred geometry. Standing within these vast chambers, one senses that the stones themselves remember. They carry the weight of voices that once filled them, of footsteps that echoed through tunnels like veins of a living planet. Every chisel mark becomes an inscription of intention, a sign that humanity has always reached inward as well as outward. The underground cities, whether built by human hands or guided by something beyond, remain silent witnesses to an ancient bond between the surface and the hidden heart of the earth. Among the endless stories surrounding hidden worlds, few inspire as much awe and fear as those that speak of the guardians, the unseen watchers who stand at the thresholds of the inner earth. From the mountains of Tibet to the frozen wastes of the Arctic, legends persist of monks, soldiers, and spectral sentinels who protect the entrances from those who would misuse their power. These figures appear across time and culture, suggesting not invention, but inheritance, as if each civilization remembered the same unbroken oath to keep the pathways sealed until humanity proves worthy to enter again. In the monasteries of the Himalayas, whispers tell of lamas who guard sacred passes leading into Agartha and Shambhala. Pilgrims who stray too close report being turned back by figures robed in crimson or white, whose presence evokes both serenity and warning. Some claim these guardians are not entirely human. Their eyes reflect the light differently, and their movements carry an almost unearthly precision. In Tibetan texts, they are described as keepers of the way, beings charged with maintaining balance between surface and inner realms. Their duty is not to forbid entry, but to protect both worlds from collapse. Far to the north, explorers who ventured into the Arctic during the early 20th century told of strange encounters near the icy frontiers. Some spoke of hearing distant machinery beneath the ice, others of encountering military patrols in regions supposedly uninhabited. Radio operators reported receiving coded transmissions in unknown frequencies, followed by silence. Believers interpret these accounts as evidence of hidden installations guarding the polar portals, remnants of secret orders, or perhaps descendants of those who fled below centuries ago, continuing the ancient task of concealment. In South America, shamans of the Andes tell of invisible protectors who dwell near entrances to the subterranean tunnels beneath Cusco and Lake Titicaca. They describe them as the Silent One, who reveal themselves through vibration rather than sight. Travelers who approach certain mountain caves sometimes hear low humming tones or feel sudden dizziness, as though their presence were being tested. Legends say these guardians safeguard the paths leading to the houses of the sun, chambers where sacred relics and crystalline devices of immense power remain hidden. Throughout history, secret societies have also claimed stewardship over the mysteries of the inner world. From the Rosicrucians to the modern esoteric orders, each has hinted at a lineage connected to subterranean knowledge. Their rituals often involve symbols of descent, stairs, spirals, and keys, representing not only spiritual initiation, but also the literal descent into the earth's mysteries. Among their teachings, one recurring motif persists: the belief that those who guard the gates serve a purpose higher than power, preserving the harmony between seen and unseen worlds. Military secrecy in the modern era has only deepened these mysteries. Certain restricted zones in polar regions and mountain ranges correspond suspiciously with locations long associated with Hollow Earth lore. Satellite imagery reveals unusual geometric patterns on remote plateaus, and underground bases are rumored to exist near magnetic anomalies. Officials dismiss these as natural formations or security facilities, yet the parallels to ancient legends are difficult to ignore. Those who believe suggest that the guardians of the gates have evolved, no longer monks or mystics, but governments and armies, continuing an ageless duty. Some explorers who claim to have approached these entrances tell of being warned off by sudden storms, equipment failures, or inexplicable illness. Others speak of being shadowed by unmarked aircraft or vehicles, their routes monitored even in the most desolate regions. Whether these experiences stem from imagination, secrecy, or something deeper, they mirror the timeless narrative that the thresholds to the inner earth are not open to all. Access, it seems, must be earned through intention, not ambition. Even within spiritual traditions, initiation into deeper mysteries often involves a symbolic guardian, a figure who tests the seeker before entry. The motif appears in countless myths: angels at the gates of Eden, sphinxes before temples, dragons coiled around hidden treasure. These archetypes reflect the same truth found in stories of the subterranean gates, that knowledge of the inner world, whether physical or spiritual, must be approached with reverence. Those who descend without understanding risk being lost in darkness, while those who carry humility find passage illuminated. Across time, the guardians remain the silent bridge between two realities. Their watch is not of exclusion, but of preservation, for they understand that power without wisdom becomes destruction. Whether they wear robes, uniforms, or invisibility itself, their purpose endures amid to keep the balance, to shield the sacred from the profane, to ensure that when humanity finally reaches for the world below, it does so not out of conquest but out of remembrance. From the depths of the earth come sounds that defy explanation, murmurs, vibrations, and echoes that seem to carry intelligence, emotion, or warning. Miners, explorers, and scientists have long reported hearing whispers in the stone, distant cries in the dark, or strange mechanical hums that rise from miles below. These phenomena, often dismissed as geological noise, have inspired both fear and fascination, fueling the belief that the earth itself speaks, or that something within it is trying to be heard. In the mining towns of Siberia, workers have told of hearing faint screams echoing from newly drilled shafts, so clear that some fled the site in terror. Soviet engineers who investigated the phenomenon during the 20th century recorded unusual acoustic frequencies that seemed to resemble human tones. These recordings, later mythologized as the well-to-hell tapes, described temperatures rising beyond measurement and sounds that no scientific explanation could fully justify. Whether hoax or anomaly, the story spread across continents, becoming one of the most haunting modern echoes of the Hollow Earth myth. Beneath the Pacific, deep-sea microphones have captured unexplained sounds that resonate like the slow toll of a massive bell. Scientists named them the bloop, Julia, and upsweep, classifying them as unidentified biological or geological events. Yet their immense volume and consistent patterns led some to wonder whether they originate from caverns beneath the ocean floor rather than its surface. Each recording seems to pulse with rhythm, as though the earth itself were breathing or calling from its depths. In regions where ancient tunnels are said to lie, locals report strange sensations. Vibrations underfoot, faint music, or whispers that vanish when approached. In the Peruvian Andes, shepherds tell of hearing choruses of distant voices at night, as if chanting rose from beneath the mountains. In the deserts of Arizona, hikers describe a low, continuous hum that seems to come from the ground itself. Geologists explain these as natural resonance, yet those attuned to older traditions hear in them the pulse of the world below, perhaps even the voices of its inhabitants reaching upward through layers of stone. Records from miners in Wales, Chile, and South Africa describe similar encounters. Some spoke of tapping sounds answering their drills, or shadows moving in the glow of lanterns far from any human presence. In more than one account, entire crews claimed to hear their own names whispered through the air. To dismiss every story as delusion would be to ignore the collective nature of these experiences. They belong to a pattern that stretches across geography and time, hinting at a deeper mystery that science has yet to name. Psychics and spiritualists have long claimed that these sounds represent communication from the inner civilizations. According to them, the beings below possess technology or consciousness capable of transmitting thought through vibration. They speak not in words but in frequencies, resonating with those who are receptive. The hums, they say, are not random. They are harmonics of the planet's heartbeat, messages encoded in the rhythm of the earth itself. Those who meditate near caves or ancient stone sites sometimes report hearing these tones as inner voices, guiding them toward understanding rather than fear. Modern science, while cautious, acknowledges the Earth's natural voice. Seismic movements, volcanic tremors, and geothermal activity all produce sounds, some too low for human hearing, others loud enough to shake continents. Yet even the most rational explanations cannot erase the uncanny familiarity of certain frequencies, the sense that the planet's rumble carries intention. Perhaps what ancient people called the whisper of the gods was nothing more or less than the earth speaking in its own language of resonance. Beyond recordings and instruments lies the mystery of perception itself. When humanity listens deeply, not just with machines but with awareness, patterns emerge, rhythms that mirror the beating of a heart, pulses that align with human emotion. Whether those voices belong to hidden civilizations, elemental forces, or the consciousness of the earth itself, they remind us that silence is never truly empty. The planet hums, sighs, and remembers, carrying within its depths the chorus of all that has ever lived. Every whisper from below invites reflection. Perhaps the voices from the deep are not calling for discovery, but for recognition, urging humanity to remember its bond with the living earth. Beneath the machinery of modern noise, an older symphony plays, one that connects surface and core, listener and source. Those who pause to hear it may find not fear, but a quiet understanding that the world beneath our feet is not silent, but alive, waiting for us to listen once more. For centuries, the quest to understand what lies beneath our feet has shifted between wonder and reason, belief and calculation. When science began to map the interior of the Earth, the old visions of vast inner realms gave way to models of molten cores, dense metals, and crushing pressures. Yet, even as seismographs drew invisible lines across the planet and satellites traced its gravity, the mystery refused to die. The instruments measured vibrations, but they could not measure imagination. Beneath the surface of empirical certainty, the ancient idea of a living hollow earth persisted, evolving quietly within the cracks of scientific understanding. Modern geology teaches that the Earth's structure consists of crust, mantle, outer core, and inner core, a sequence of layers defined by heat and pressure. Seismic waves from earthquakes reveal a planet of astonishing density, with temperatures exceeding those of the Sun's surface deep within. Yet this picture, though supported by data, remains a model built upon inference rather than direct observation. No human has ever drilled more than a few miles into the crust. Beneath that limit lies nothing but theory and imagination, leaving room for those who question whether the picture is truly complete. Scientists often point to the behavior of seismic waves as proof that no vast hollows exist within the Earth. Waves bend and reflect in predictable ways, forming patterns that suggest a solid core. But those who believe in hidden realms argue that such readings could easily mask massive cavities if those spaces were filled with gases, plasma, or unknown materials that distort seismic data. They propose that beneath continents may lie colossal voids, not empty, but filled with ecosystems shielded from human detection, sustained by geothermal energy and perhaps the faint radiance of an inner sun. Skepticism, in truth, has never been the enemy of wonder. Some scientists, though unconvinced of a literal hollow Earth, admit that large subsurface cavities exist. Colossal lava tubes on the Moon and Mars, enormous cave systems beneath our own crust. In Vietnam and Mexico, entire forests thrive within caverns large enough to hold cities. These discoveries blur the line between myth and reality, showing that hidden worlds do exist, though perhaps not as the ancients imagined. The Earth, far from being a solid, silent sphere, pulses with voids, channels, and rivers of fire, an inner landscape more alive than most ever dreamed. Researchers who study extremophiles, life forms that thrive in darkness and heat, have found organisms that live miles below the surface, feeding on minerals and methane rather than sunlight. These discoveries suggest that life, in some form, may exist deep underground, adapting to conditions once thought impossible. For believers in the Hollow Earth, such findings offer validation. If microbes can thrive beneath crushing rock, why not more complex forms in the vast caverns of legend? Each revelation about the resilience of life adds another layer of intrigue to the question of what lies below. Even within conventional science, strange anomalies persist. Magnetic fields shift unpredictably, gravity varies slightly across the globe, and unexplained low-frequency vibrations hum through the crust. Some of these mysteries have rational explanations, yet others remain elusive. A few researchers working beyond mainstream acceptance suggest that these patterns could hint at massive internal structures or reservoirs of energy unknown to current physics. To them, the Hollow Earth may not be a literal cavity, but an energetic or dimensional phenomenon, a kind of parallel ecosystem existing within the same physical shell. For every scientist who dismisses the myth, another approaches it with quiet curiosity. History shows that many ideas once dismissed as superstition later revealed unexpected truth. Continental drift, meteor impacts, even microbial life in space were once ridiculed before becoming fact. Perhaps the Hollow Earth, in some form, will one day follow the same arc, not as fantasy, but as revelation. Humanity's understanding of its own planet remains young. The depths of the Earth remain as unexplored as the stars. What unites both believer and skeptic is the shared acknowledgement of mystery. The Earth's interior, though studied, remains inaccessible. Science may claim dominion over the surface, but beneath that skin lies a world still uncharted. Whether filled with molten metal or hidden civilizations, it remains a realm of silence that invites imagination. The instruments measure vibrations, but the heart still listens for whispers. and those whispers continue to speak. As the 20th century gave way to the digital age, the legend of the Hollow Earth transformed once more. No longer confined to dusty books or whispered societies, it began to pulse through the circuits of modern culture. Online forums, documentaries, and encrypted archives revived the old tales with new intensity, merging them with conspiracies of governments, extraterrestrials, and hidden technology. The story evolved from ancient myth into modern suspicion, feeding a collective sense that the surface world hides more than anyone dares admit. In the aftermath of the Second World War, global secrecy deepened. Military installations appeared in the Arctic and Antarctic, and international treaties restricted exploration of certain polar zones. Officially, these measures aimed to preserve ecology or maintain peace. Unofficially, they sparked curiosity. Why forbid civilian access to places so desolate? Why did nations with opposing interests agree so easily on keeping those regions closed? For those steeped in the Hollow Earth tradition, the answer was simple. The gates to the inner world lay beneath the ice, and the powers of the surface had chosen to conceal them. Throughout the Cold War, rumors of underground bases multiplied. Stories circulated of vast subterranean networks linking military facilities across continents. Some believed these tunnels connected not only nations, but dimensions, pathways built upon ancient routes that once led to Agartha. Others claimed that secret governments had made contact with inner beings who offered advanced technology in exchange for discretion. These ideas, impossible to prove yet strangely consistent, spread through underground publications and radio broadcasts, feeding the sense that truth had been buried along with the tunnels. When satellites began to photograph the Earth in high detail, strange anomalies appeared near the poles. Circular shadows, blurs, or missing data that enthusiasts interpreted as evidence of hidden openings. Official explanations attributed them to technical errors or cloud cover, but the timing seemed too perfect. Each time a new image emerged, a portion of the map would be mysteriously obscured. To believers, this was proof of deliberate censorship, an invisible hand erasing what should never be seen. As the age of information expanded, so did the mythology. The Hollow Earth merged with UFO lore, suggesting that flying saucers did not come from distant stars, but from within our planet. Witnesses described crafts emerging from oceans and ice fields, accelerating into the sky without sound. Some stories linked these vehicles to the Agarthans, others to remnants of advanced civilizations that retreated underground after ancient cataclysms. In this version of the legend, the sky and the earth were connected, the below and above united by technology indistinguishable from magic. Government secrecy only deepened public intrigue. High-security zones in Antarctica, unexplained no-fly areas, and the quiet presence of military satellites pointed to activities beyond ordinary research. When whistleblowers spoke of underground laboratories or hidden cities beneath mountains, their claims were dismissed yet never entirely disproven. In a world shaped by distrust, the Hollow Earth became a perfect mirror of the human condition. A myth, not of geography, but of secrecy itself. Digital platforms breathed new life into the old story. Videos showed supposed entrances, leaked documents described subterranean races, and online communities pieced together patterns from forgotten maps. The Hollow Earth became a tapestry, woven from fragments of truth and fiction, science and faith, paranoia and poetry. For many, it offered not escape but meaning, a symbol of unseen order beneath a chaotic world. To believe in a hidden civilization was to believe that someone, somewhere, still held the wisdom humanity had lost. As conspiracy blurred with culture, the Hollow Earth legend ceased to be fringe. It became an allegory for power concealed and knowledge withheld, a metaphor for the layers of deception within modern life. Whether real or imagined, the inner world reflected a truth that everyone sensed. Much of what shapes existence remains hidden, buried under ice, stone, or secrecy. The map may show continents and oceans, but the real terrain, the unseen, stretches far deeper, pulsing beneath the surface of perception. As the 20th century unfolded, stories began to emerge of men and women who claimed not only to believe in the hollow earth, but to have made contact with those who dwell within. They called themselves contactees, visionaries, mystics, and ordinary people suddenly thrust into communication with beings from beneath the crust. Some received their messages in dreams, others through direct encounters, yet all spoke of the same theme. Humanity stood at a threshold, and the world below was reaching out to guide it toward transformation. One of the earliest and most famous of these figures was a man named George Adamski, who in the 1950s claimed contact with beings from both other planets and inner realms. He described them as tall, radiant, and peaceful, their eyes filled with compassion rather than judgment. According to his accounts, they spoke of universal balance, warning that humanity's obsession with war and technology threatened not only its own survival, but the harmony of the entire planet. Adamski's words resonated with a generation poised between fear and hope, an age staring both into the atom and the abyss. Other contactees soon followed, each with variations of the same message. Some spoke of Agartha and emissaries communicating through telepathic transmission, others claimed physical meetings in remote mountains or deserts. They described civilizations of great beauty and technology where free energy, telepathy, and spiritual mastery were everyday realities. These beings, they said, were humanity's ancient kin, survivors of lost continents or visitors from parallel dimensions who had retreated inward to preserve the flame of wisdom until the surface was ready to receive it again. Throughout the 1960s and 1970s, the movement grew into a quiet phenomenon. Meditation groups formed with the purpose of establishing vibrational contact with the inner world. Practitioners claimed to hear soft harmonic tones during trance, believing them to be signals from subterranean sources. Some received messages written in unknown symbols, others produced elaborate drawings of cities bathed in inner light. Whether products of imagination or genuine transmissions, these accounts shared remarkable consistency, a language of light, peace, and transformation that seemed to transcend personal experience. As technology advanced, so too did the reports. Radio operators began claiming to receive unusual frequencies emanating from deep beneath the ground, often rhythmic and repeating. Spiritual researchers interpreted these as coded signals from Agarthan transmitters, part of a larger communication effort. A few fringe scientists suggested that the frequencies corresponded to geological resonance, yet even they admitted the patterns were oddly deliberate. The line between science and mysticism blurred, as if the Earth itself had become a medium for dialogue. Those who followed these transmissions spoke of the Great Call, a prophecy that when humanity reached a state of global crisis, the voices from below would reveal themselves openly. Their message, consistent across cultures and decades, urged unity and preparation. Wars, environmental collapse, and social turmoil were described as symptoms of disconnection from the living planet. The beings of the inner world did not condemn humanity. They pitied its blindness and sought to heal it. To them, contact was not invasion, but invitation, an effort to restore balance before the outer world consumed itself. Skeptics dismissed these accounts as fantasy, the product of wishful minds in an uncertain age. Yet even they could not deny the power of the idea. The notion that another intelligence watches and cares for humanity from within its own planet resonated deeply. It reversed the traditional gaze toward the stars, reminding listeners that enlightenment might rise not from above, but from within, both literally and spiritually. Whether Agarthans were physical beings or projections of a collective yearning, Their words carried moral clarity that science could not easily explain. Contactee literature of the later 20th century often intertwined with ecological awareness. Messages allegedly from inner beings urged humanity to protect the earth, describing pollution and warfare as wounds inflicted upon the living body of the planet. Some contactees predicted natural disasters as the planet's attempts to cleanse itself, warning that continued imbalance would sever the connection between inner and outer worlds. These warnings, though couched in mystical language, echoed real scientific concerns, linking myth and environmental responsibility in a way that transcended belief. Even now, stories of contact continue to surface, carried by dreamers, mystics, and explorers of consciousness. Whether through meditation, intuition, or unexplained synchronicity, many claim to feel the presence of something vast and benevolent beneath their feet. A current of awareness that listens and responds. They describe it as both planetary and personal, a dialogue between humanity and its forgotten self. For those who have felt it, proof becomes irrelevant. What matters is the connection, the quiet certainty that the earth is not silent but alive, watching, waiting, and whispering to those who choose to listen. Long before the continents took their modern shapes, myths spoke of lands that vanished beneath the oceans: Atlantis, Lemuria, Mu, Hyperborea, each said to have fallen not through war or decay, but through transformation. To those who study the deeper layers of these legends, these continents did not vanish entirely, they descended. The survivors, forewarned of disaster, are said to have retreated into the inner earth, preserving their wisdom and cities within caverns, shielded from the surface cataclysms that reshaped the planet. In this vision, the Hollow Earth is not merely a separate realm, but a continuation of lost civilizations, a sanctuary of ancient memories sealed beneath the crust. In the writings attributed to Plato, Atlantis is described as a radiant island empire, blessed with knowledge of the gods yet doomed by pride. When the seas consumed it, its light was thought to have been extinguished. Yet certain esoteric traditions maintain that not all Atlanteans perished. Some fled into the mountains of Tibet, others beneath the ocean floor, guided by priests who possessed the technology to open subterranean passages. These refugees, according to hidden histories, became the first inhabitants of Agartha, carrying with them the remnants of Atlantean science and the spiritual teachings that once shaped their lost paradise. Across the Pacific, the legend of Lemuria tells of a vast land connecting Asia to the Americas, a continent inhabited by a gentle race that communicated through thought and lived in harmony with the Earth's energies. When Lemuria sank beneath the waves, its survivors are said to have journeyed downward through immense tunnels into the crust, establishing crystal cities powered by the natural resonance of the planet. Their descendants, known in later myths as the Shining Ones, preserved the memory of their origin and vowed to remain hidden until the surface world rediscovered balance. In the Indian Ocean, stories of the lost land of Kumari Kandam echo the same theme. An ancient civilization destroyed by flood, yet never fully lost. Tamil texts describe sages who entered caves that led to glowing worlds below, where the knowledge of the old world was stored in vast libraries of light. Some scholars suggest that these tales may preserve faint memories of prehistoric migrations or ancient cataclysms, yet others sense a deeper connection, that the sinking of continents and the descent into the inner world are two halves of a single cycle. Destruction above, preservation below. Certain mystics have proposed that these vanished lands form part of a greater pattern, an ancient network of civilizations that once spanned both surface and interior. They describe a time when humanity lived in two worlds at once, one of sunlight, one of the inner flame. When natural disasters and cosmic shifts fractured the surface, the inner realm became a refuge, its inhabitants evolving along different lines of consciousness. To them, the legends of Atlantis and Lemuria are not tales of extinction, but of migration, the passing of knowledge from one world to another. Archaeological enigmas lend subtle weight to this vision. Megalithic structures scattered across continents, the pyramids of Egypt, the stone circles of Britain, the temples of the Andes, share alignments and techniques that seem to transcend both distance and time. Their builders worked with a mastery of geometry and resonance that modern tools barely replicate. Some researchers suggest these monuments mark energy points on the surface corresponding to the currents flowing through the Earth's inner network. If true, they would represent more than architecture. They would be the surface reflections of the hidden cities below, the visible stars of an inverted sky. Legends from Polynesia to the Arctic speak of Hyperborea, a luminous land near the North Pole where night never fell. Ancient Greeks described it as the home of a peaceful race who lived beyond the reach of suffering. Modern interpreters believe Hyperborea was not above but within, its eternal light a reference to the inner sun. In this context, Hyperborea, Atlantis, and Lemuria are not separate myths, but chapters of a single epic, the saga of humanity's descent and the memory of worlds still living beneath us. Through every version of the story runs a thread of hope. The lost continents may one day rise again, not by upheaval but by revelation. When humanity learns to hear the voice of the planet and align with its pulse, the barrier between surface and inner world may dissolve. Then the wisdom of Atlantis, the serenity of Lemuria, and the light of Agartha may once again meet, not as fantasy but as reunion, a restoration of the forgotten unity between above and below. Among the most compelling elements of the Hollow Earth legend are the tales of its technology, instruments of light, power, and healing so advanced that they appear as miracles to the surface mind. Those who claim to have glimpsed the inner cities describe machines that move without engines, crystals that generate boundless energy, and structures that respond to thought. In these accounts, technology and consciousness are not separate. They are expressions of the same principle, harmony with the planet's living field. The science of the inner world, if such exists, is said to flow not from dominance over nature, but from cooperation with it. Accounts of explorers and mystics who claimed entry into Agartha often mention luminous stones that radiate constant light without heat. These devices, said to be powered by resonance with the inner sun, illuminate vast caverns without flame or electricity. In some descriptions, walls themselves glow softly as though the material of the city has learned to breathe light. The energy sustaining this brilliance is sometimes described as vril, a subtle current that flows through all living things and through the veins of the earth. Those who understand it can direct it through thought and intention, creating light, motion, and healing. Ancient texts from India, Tibet, and Egypt contain faint reflections of such knowledge. References to vimanas, flying vehicles powered by mercury engines and sound frequencies, mirror modern speculation about anti-gravity technology. Priests of ancient Thebes reportedly used rods of crystal to communicate across distances, while Chinese alchemists spoke of dragons of light that carried messages through the ground. To the skeptical mind, these are metaphors. To the initiated, they are fragments of a lost science, one preserved within the inner world and occasionally revealed to those who seek it in purity. Within these legends, technology serves a purpose beyond utility. Machines are described as living extensions of their creators, crafted with intention and moral alignment. In the inner world, thought itself becomes the engine. Transportation occurs through manipulation of gravitational fields, where vehicles rise effortlessly by harmonizing with the planet's magnetic flow. Structures are said to grow like crystals, forming organically through sound and vibration rather than mechanical assembly. Energy flows without pollution or decay because it is drawn from the same source that animates life, the radiant core at the planet's heart. Some accounts describe vast archives within the subterranean cities, halls filled with transparent discs or luminous tablets that store knowledge beyond comprehension. These records, it is said, preserve the complete history of the planet, from its birth to its future potential, accessible to those who can attune to their frequency. In this vision, history is not written but sung, vibrating within the crystalline matrix of the earth itself. Those who learn to resonate with that vibration can read directly from the memory of the world. Mystics who claim telepathic contact with the Agarthans describe another aspect of their science: healing through sound. Diseases, they say, arise from dissonance between body and spirit. By directing harmonic frequencies tuned to the individual's energy field, the healers of the inner world restore balance instantly, requiring no surgery or medicine. Similar ideas surface in ancient temples where architecture produces precise acoustic effects, suggesting that humanity once knew how to heal through resonance before it turned to instruments of steel. Modern theorists searching for free energy often draw inspiration from these legends. Nikola Tesla, in his later writings, spoke of the Earth as a conductor of limitless power, capable of transmitting energy through resonance without wires. Some claim that his discoveries mirrored the forgotten principles of the inner world, that he had tapped into the same planetary field known to ancient civilizations. Whether true or not, his vision of a world powered by invisible harmony reflects the same ideal, that energy should flow as freely as thought. In the lore of Agartha, technology is indistinguishable from spirituality. Machines hum in harmony with the inner sun, cities pulse with awareness, and every invention mirrors the wisdom of its maker. This vision, whether myth or memory, challenges the surface world's obsession with control. It suggests that true advancement lies not in mastering the earth, but in becoming one with it. Perhaps that is why the inner civilization remains hidden, not to withhold knowledge, but to protect it from a humanity not yet ready to use it without destroying itself. Prophecies scattered across cultures speak of a time when the hidden ones will rise again, when the guardians of the inner world will re-emerge to guide humanity through its final transformation. From the Hopi of North America to the mystics of Tibet, from ancient Hindu scriptures to modern esoteric writings, each tells the same story in a different tongue, that the age of separation between surface and subterranean realms will not last forever. When the surface world reaches its breaking point, the veil will lift, and those who dwell within will walk among us once more. Among the Hopi, the prophecy speaks of the blue star Kachina, a celestial sign heralding the return of the ant people, the benevolent beings who once sheltered humanity beneath the ground during an age of fire. They will rise again, say the elders, when the earth shakes and the rivers change course, to lead the faithful into safety as a new world begins. This vision mirrors stories from Tibet, where the king of Shambhala is prophesied to emerge from the hidden realm with an army of light, not to conquer, but to awaken. His coming marks not destruction, but renewal, a restoration of balance between worlds. Across theosophical writings of the 19th and 20th centuries, the same theme reappears. Madame Blavatsky and her successors spoke of subterranean masters who observe humanity's evolution from afar, intervening subtly when chaos threatens to erase civilization. They described a great cycle in which surface and inner worlds alternate in dominance, one rising while the other retreats. According to this view, the modern era's turmoil signals that the cycle is shifting once more, preparing for a reunion between the two spheres. Modern prophets, mystics, and channelers echo this message, They speak of inner beings communicating through dreams, urging humanity to awaken before its own technology unravels the planet's balance. Some describe luminous figures appearing in remote places, mountains, deserts, or polar lights, radiating warmth and calm. To witnesses, these apparitions feel neither alien nor divine, but familiar, as though part of the earth itself was speaking through human form. They come not as conquerors, but as kin, bearing the memory of an older harmony humanity once shared. Certain traditions portray this re-emergence not as a physical event, but as a shift in perception. The return of the inner beings, they say, begins when humans awaken the same light within themselves. When consciousness expands to resonate with the frequency of the inner sun, the veil separating realms dissolves naturally. Those who achieve this awareness will perceive the Agarthans not as separate entities, but as aspects of their own higher nature, reflections of what humanity can become. In more apocalyptic interpretations, the return takes on a grander, almost cosmic scale. As the planet undergoes environmental and spiritual upheaval, the inner sun is said to brighten, sending waves of energy through the crust. Volcanoes awaken, magnetic fields realign, and ancient gateways open once again. From these portals, luminous ships emerge, carrying the emissaries of Agartha and Shambhala. Their mission is not to dominate, but to heal, restoring the world's energy grid and reawakening humanity's lost connection to the living earth. Those who interpret these prophecies symbolically see in them a mirror of the human journey. The inner beings are not strangers beneath the ground, but archetypes of the hidden wisdom within every person. Their return signifies the reawakening of conscience, the rediscovery of harmony long buried beneath the noise of civilization. When humanity learns to listen to the earth again, to its rhythms, its silences, its heartbeat, the inner beings will no longer need to reveal themselves, for their essence will already be alive in us. Whichever version one embraces, physical, spiritual, or symbolic, the message remains the same. Humanity stands at a threshold. The gates of the inner world do not open through conquest, but through remembrance. When the surface learns to mirror the balance of the depths, when compassion replaces ambition and unity outshines division, the hidden ones will no longer hide. Their emergence will not be a miracle, but a homecoming, a reunion between two halves of the same living world, the earth above and the earth within. Night falls over the mountains and silence spreads across the valleys like a veil. In that silence one can almost hear it, the faint pulse of the world below, steady, rhythmic, eternal. Humanity has gazed at the stars for centuries, dreaming of what lies beyond, yet perhaps the true frontier has always been beneath our feet. To descend into the hollow earth is not merely to dig through soil and stone, but to journey inward toward the unknown that exists both within the planet and within the soul. Every legend, every myth, every whisper from the depths has been an invitation to remember that the greatest mysteries are often closest to home. As the story comes full circle, the images that once belonged to ancient myth begin to merge with the realities of modern science and imagination. Caves that breathe with geothermal warmth, crystals that glow with their own light, tunnels carved by forces older than civilization. All these are reminders that the earth is far from inert. It moves, hums, and responds, alive in ways we are only beginning to understand. Whether the inner world is a physical realm of hidden suns or a spiritual dimension of memory and energy, its presence continues to shape the human dream. Those who have sought it, explorers, mystics, scientists, share a common thread. Each was driven by a hunger that no surface discovery could satisfy, a call that echoed from below. They sought not gold or glory, but understanding, a glimpse of the structure behind existence, a meeting with the architects of mystery. Some returned with stories of radiant cities, others returned changed in silence. Yet all who have descended, literally or symbolically, have found the same truth, that the depths of the earth mirror the depths of the human heart. The descent is not a fall, but a remembering. The surface world, with its noise and motion, often forgets the quiet rhythm that sustains it. But within the deep, beneath the crust of reason and fear, lies the pulse of continuity, the same force that guided ancient builders, inspired mythmakers, and whispers still through stone and soil. To hear it is to realize that the earth is not a dead sphere, but a vast organism, breathing and aware, carrying within it the memory of all who have ever walked upon its skin. For some, the hollow earth will forever remain a myth, a beautiful impossibility, a poetic reflection of humankind's inner longing. For others, it is a truth concealed by centuries of secrecy, a reality awaiting rediscovery. Yet whether one views it as symbol or science, its meaning endures. Beneath every mountain, beneath every heartbeat, there lies another world waiting to be seen. The hollow earth reminds us that knowledge is not found only in telescopes or laboratories, but in courage. The courage to look deeper, to question what we think we know, and to walk toward mystery rather than away from it. As the narrator of this long, winding chronicle, one feels the lingering sense that the story is still unfolding. Somewhere beneath deserts and ice, beneath jungles and oceans, ancient chambers may still echo with unseen life. Perhaps civilizations thrive in silence, waiting for the day when the surface remembers its kin below. Perhaps the entrances remain guarded, their gates invisible to those who seek with greed, but open to those who listen with reverence. The truth may not reveal itself in stone or data, but in the awakening of awareness itself, the moment humanity realizes it has always been connected to the earth, not above it. To descend into the hollow earth is to descend into oneself, to step beyond the noise of the surface and find the hidden sun that burns within all life. It is to understand that exploration is not just physical, but spiritual, that every legend is a mirror reflecting our need to know who we are and where we come from. The mystery endures not because it is unsolved, but because it is alive. It calls us not to conquer it, but to commune with it, to walk into the darkness and discover the light that waits beyond fear. So as we rise from this journey, from myths and mountains, from science and silence, the question remains open. Not is the earth hollow, but how deep are we willing to go to find its truth? Beneath every step we take, beneath every breath, the planet listens. Perhaps in its quiet way, it waits for us to listen back. And so the story closes as it began, with a whisper from below. Whether the hollow earth exists as a physical realm or as a symbol of human longing, its call remains the same: to explore, to question, to remember. Every myth carries a seed of truth, and every truth begins as a story told in the dark. The earth still holds its secrets, and perhaps that is as it should be. Mystery keeps us humble. It reminds us that no matter how much we uncover, wonder is the greatest treasure of all. If this journey through hidden worlds and ancient echoes stirred your imagination, stay connected to the mystery. Subscribe to the channel to join future explorations into the unseen. Like the video if it resonated with you, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice adds to the living story. Most importantly, share this film with friends and family who seek the unknown, who listen for whispers beneath the noise of the world. Together we keep the light of curiosity burning, a light that, like the inner sun, never truly fades.